Real Madrid won 3 Champions Leagues in a row between 2015-16 and 17-18, but were put out of the round of 16 last season by eventual semi-finalists Ajax. Coach Santiago Solari departed and Zinedine Zidane returned to try and guide Los Blancos back to another European title, aided by significant summer spending that saw the arrivals of Eden Hazard, Luka Jovic, Ferland Mendy and Brazilian prospects Eder Milito and Rodrigo. The average age of all of Real Madrid's summer arrivals is just 22.4 years old, including the Japanese 18-year-old Takefusa Kubo, showing an awareness perhaps that now is the time for a rebuild. Now, as these stats from One Football show though, it's the old hands who've so far been important for Zidane's side in La Liga, with Gareth Bale and Karim Benzema weighing in with goals for the Madrid side. Zidane has often been criticised for a lack of tactical nous, relying on his man management skills and some in-game adjustments to get the best from his expensively assembled squad. So far this season, Zidane has used a 4-4-2 and forms of a 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1, whereby one midfielder sits and 2 wide players push up. The degree of attacking intent determines how one might view the formation. While Bale and Benzema have performed reasonably well this season, Zidane has yet to work out his best team and his best setup. The injury to Eden Hazard has not helped, but Zidane's selections and approach do suggest someone still getting to grips with how his squad should play. Madrid's squad is large but unbalanced. In midfield, for example, there's James Rodriguez, Modric, Kroos, Isco, Asensio and Valverde. But only Casemiro is a genuine defensive midfielder. Too many attacking players, not enough defensive cover. Real, for all of their individual quality, have significant issues. The first is their defensive positioning and the attacking intent of the fullbacks. Zidane likes his teams to push high and look for crossing opportunities from overlaps. While Ferland Mendy looked good against Villarreal, the aggressive nature of Real's fullbacks leaves significant gaps in behind, requiring Casemiro or one of the centre-backs to cover over in the event of a loss of possession. This in turn leaves gaps elsewhere. In addition, while Real sought to solve this by, at times, leaving one fullback deeper to make a sort of 3-man defence, this meant that either the wide player of the 4-4-2 was left very isolated, or Real's midfield was stretched and insufficiently compact. A lot of teams play with high fullbacks who attack or engage in pressing, but Real seem to find it strangely difficult to get right in the defensive phase, and this means that they can be exposed by direct balls into the wide channels. In addition to this, Real are encouraged to play a high line generally and to press quickly and assertively, especially in the opponent's half. However, this can look disjointed, and it's noticeable that against Villarreal, for example, large gaps appeared in central midfield as Real players pressed high but without support. Casemiro, as the lone defensive midfielder in a 2-man midfield, struggled as his teammates failed to defend sensibly and Real left easy passing lanes open to the opposition. This was partly because Real's 2 wide midfielders in the 4-4-2 offered little defensive cover. The 4-3-3 should deliver more solidity as Real can fall back into a 4-5-1 or a 4-1-4-1. However, the natural instinct of the fullbacks to press high either means that Real bunch players up out wide, or the wide midfielders also push high, both still leave gaps in behind. Zidane needs to find his team's balance between defence and attack in the wide areas, and so far he's struggled. Attacking, on the other hand, shouldn't be a problem for Real. They have a surfeit of talent going forwards and creative passers like Kroos and Modric to service them. However, there are some issues here too. Benzema, whose natural instinct is to drop off, link play and facilitate the inside forwards pushing ahead of him in a 4-3-3, should work well with Jovic as a pair of strikers in a 4-4-2. But, against Villarreal, Jovic dropped off too, partly because the wide players pushed high, and with Casemiro dropping deeper, that isolated Kroos and left him with few options. Because Real also like to cross, even with Benzema as the sole striker, too often there are insufficient numbers getting forwards to meet those crosses. The wide players tend to stay wide, partly because Real also like to overload a flank and keep the other man wide for a switch into space, and partly because, especially with a 2-man midfield of Kroos and Casemiro, neither player is likely to surge forwards. Real look best when players like Bale and Vinicius are running in behind onto through balls, but too often this is not what's happening. Madrid have issues. There's a huge amount of individual quality in the squad, which is often enough to get them out of a hole in La Liga, but against top European opposition, the lack of a plan that plays to their strengths and defensive weaknesses in positioning and pressing will be problematic. Zidane has a tactical struggle on his hands to get things right.